What's up, everybody, and welcome to the Real Estate Playbook, where we talk about all things real estate. I'm your man, Lance Williard, and I can't wait to get into this episode. He hails from Salisbury, Maryland. He's the founder and owner of Whitehead Rental Management. He's a second generation realtor at Whitehead Real Estate Executives. He's earned numerous awards to include the Rising Star Award and Coastal Association Realtor of the Year. He's a fellow Owners Club member. Ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together for my man, Austin Whitehead.
Thanks.
What's up, brother?
Hey, thanks for having me. I really appreciate it. And I didn't know you were going to pull out some old information on me and everything. So throwing that out there. So, no, I greatly appreciate you doing some background, looking and pulling some stuff up on some previous days.
Man, no problem. You earned all that.
Yeah.
So you might as well put it out there. You know what I'm saying? So congratulations. And I know there's more awards and things coming to you.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
What you been up to today?
Yeah, no, things been good. Sat down, met with some of my team earlier today, going over some financials and things of that nature. So we have the property management company. It's the first of the month, so always looking at, all right, where's everybody at, and making sure that owner distributions got out there properly, and if there's anybody that's behind, that we start making our phone calls. Hey, we had a weekend. Typically, rents are due on the first, late after the 5th, and then start that process. But they had the weekend, so today's Monday. So they had a couple extra days this month. So and now we're just starting that process beginning of the month. So, but all in all, it's been good. So it's good. First couple meetings this morning.
Well, good. I know you're busy. I ain't got to take up too much of your time, but I know you're a second generation real estate guy. So just because your parents or your family was in real estate, I mean, you got to get in real estate.
Mm-hmm.
So what's your story getting into real estate?
Yeah. So I'll take it back to when I went to school. I knew I wanted to do something in business, but I actually didn't particularly think it would be real estate. And actually, my father, who got into the real estate business, my father was a state trooper at first and then got into real estate. And to be honest, at one point I was like, something on police route, like, or business, like something of that nature. So I ended up going to school for accounting, and I went to school for accounting, and I was studying accounting, and I'm like, all right, this is what you do. You go to school, you get a job, all the things. But my dad got into real estate while I was in school, and right before I started college. And he was like, go get your real estate license, go start learning about real estate and things. And I don't want to do real estate. Like, I'm going to go, work for a big company or something along those lines. And I get my real estate license. I kind of start dabbling with it a little bit, like learning more. And I was definitely very interested of like how you could use real estate. And a lot of people, get into their first book reading Rich Dad, Poor Dad, which was the first book. Like, I went to school, college. That was the first book I read, like cover to cover. Like I was like, whoa, like there's a whole nother side. And I remember I was an accounting major too. And I remember reading Rich Dad Poor Dad, and he'd say, what's an asset? What's a liability? An asset is something that puts money into your pocket, and a liability is anything that takes money away. And that's completely different than what your typical accountant would say. I remember having conversations with some of my teachers, like, hey, that's not really an asset. We keep that on, they're keeping that on their financials as an asset, but it's costing them money. Like, and they're like, no, you don't know what you're talking about. Like, I'm like, no, but from a cash flow perspective, this makes more sense. Like, it's got to be bringing in money, or otherwise it's just, for example, like vehicles or something like that. It would sit as an asset, but every day it's taking money out. Like, I'd be like, no, that's not a real true asset. Real estate's a rental real estate is a true asset. So I just started having these little clicks with it. And I ended up, while I was in school, I was like, started really enjoying real estate. And I actually, started helping some people buy and sell. And then I ended up, graduating. I went across the bridge and I started working for a company called PricewaterhouseCoopers. It's a large CPA firm. I was working in the Baltimore, DC metropolitan area up there. And while there, that's when I realized what true traffic was. I would be it'd take me to like they're like, yeah, we need your help on this client over here. I'm like, okay, no problem. It can't be that far, man. 2 hours there, 2 hours back. Like, it was. I was like, oh my gosh. So I was like, I guess this is real world. And one day I was, I called my dad and I was like, you ever think real estate? You think I could make it in doing real estate? And he said, yeah, come on back to the shore. So the shore, where I live on the Eastern Shore is pretty rural. So I ended up coming back and I was like, well, I still want to, I went all this time through school. I want to get my CPA just to say I have it. And I started studying for the CPA and finishing some extra courses to get the CPA license. And while I was doing that, I was doing real estate too. And I bought my first, I found a private money lender that would help me with buying my first property, and he had a lot of faith in me because I had like $1,000 to my name, like, and student loan debt and $1,000 to my name, like just working like the
Yep.
summers down at a crab house near the beach, and I didn't have much, but he did me a favor, and I think he loaned me the money at like 12% interest or something like that, and he's like, you got 6 months to pay me back, or
Wow.
I'm taking the house, and this is the last time you're ever getting a deal. But when I did all the numbers, I said, this is what I'm going to purchase it for. I ran the numbers on how much it's going to cost to fix up, talked to contractors, did all the things. And I said, this is what I can sell it for. And there's a healthy margin, pay you back, like all the things. And he took a chance on me. And because I was 20 years old at the time.
Dang.
And, um, and but I was taking these extra classes to get my CPA. I had to get like 150 credits to get my CPA, and I had an accounting degree, but I didn't have the enough credits to get the CPA license. I was in school doing this my first flip with the private money, and then also trying to study for this test. Well, I finished the extra classes, and now all I have to do is study to take the test, and I flipped the house, and I remember I got that check. It was the most amount of money I mean, I had $1,000 to my name. Like the guy should,
Exactly.
like for all intents and purposes, the guy should not have like bet on me at all because I had nothing to pay him if it didn't work out. And um, I ended up paying him all his money. I sold the property and I made like 30 grand. Like and
That's what I'm saying.
yeah. So I was 20 years old, and I settled the day before my 21st birthday. So yeah, so I was like, gosh, now I'm 21, going to the bar for the first time.
Yes, sir. Let's
I'm,
go.
I'm the man.
Make it rain, baby.
Yeah. So I was like, so that was my first like dealing with real estate, and I got lucky that I made it through and did my numbers right and everything because I could have something up or along the way,
Definitely.
and while I was studying for the license, I ended up calling PwC and because I was supposed to go back to work for them after I got the CPA. Like they gave me basically like a sabbatical,
Okay.
and to say, hey, go get your extra credits, go get your CPA. Well, we got a job for you here. Like, just let us know once you're done. And I called them and I said, yeah, I'm not coming back. So that was 15. So it's going on almost 10 years that I just went full into real estate. And I mostly so my first, one of the first deals I did for myself, I then, became a realtor helping. Well, I already had the real estate license, so I was helping more people buy and sell. And I was doing that while I was doing the flip, and in school and stuff. But I was like, I think I'm young, I'm not married, I don't got any kids. I'm going to take a bet on myself. And if it doesn't work out, then I can, call the accounting firm back and
Go back to PW.
yeah,
Sorry.
exactly. I could call them back because when I was there, I did a really good job for them, and wherever I went, I always like, hey, like if I'm there, I'm giving you 110%. Like, and there was local firms in my area that I could have gone and worked for. Like whatever I did internships with local firms. Like I gave 110%. So I had a backup plan, but I was like, hey, if I'm gonna do this thing, I'm young, I don't have any, true anybody else relying on me. Like I can live at home.
Hustle mode, baby.
Yeah. So I was just like, I'm gonna get it. Like, yeah, really. Like coming out of school since then, I haven't. I've basically worked for myself. Working as hard as I can, helping as many people as I can, and as a realtor, and then, I kept kept going, and as a realtor, and it's funny because I have this accounting background. It's like, oh, I'm gonna write off as much stuff as I can. Like, so I'm a realtor, I'm an entrepreneur, my own boss. Like, I'm gonna write off everything. And I remember going to buy my first house, like going to a bank, and they're like, you make $400 a month. So I was like, no,
Yep.
I said, I made more than that on one deal. Like, and they're like, well, based on what you write off, like based on your tax returns, you got
Right.
money in the bank, but we can't give you a loan, like a streamlined, like conventional loan. So I was like, that's when I learned, okay, there's a game here to play at
Give
that.
and take.
Yeah, and maybe it was more than that, but it was
Yeah.
something small. Like, you weren't buying a house, like,
Right. Right.
it's like, I don't know how you buy ramen noodles, like, like, so I was like, gosh. So from there, I was like, all right, there's a game to play here if I'm going to work with banks, or how am I going to approach this? So when I bought my first, when I was looking at my first rental property, I actually went back to that first private money lender, and I said, hey, here's the thing. I'm gonna buy for this. Here's all the things I'm gonna do. Boom, 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 and I'm refinance it, cash out, refinance, pay you back. Kind of the bird method. The buy,
Yep.
rehab the property, refinance it, rent it out. So that's what I did with this next property that I bought, and turned out.
Where'd you find these two properties, that your first flip and this rental? Where'd you find them?
Yeah, the first one was actually on market. So it was on market, that I bought. The second one was an auction. And what I learned too is, like, I mean, not everybody has the same. We don't get too much snow in my area, but when we do, it's a good day to go to the auction, because I was like the only one there. So, and I was like, there was one other guy there bidding, and I was like, I don't know when this guy's gonna stop. I'm about to hit my peak, and this guy keeps going. And then as soon as I said, all right, I'm out. Like, I was like, this guy keeps going. The guy turned to me and he was like, "No, I work for the bank." I'm like, "Dang!"
Oh, oh man.
He was like, he was
The
bidding
bank could
me
do
up.
that?
Yeah, yeah, he was bidding me up. So yeah,
That's horrible.
exactly. So I was like, "Dang on." I was like, "So you're telling me I could have stopped, a few
Yeah.
thousand
That's
dollars
dirty.
ago, and because I was the only one here, I would have gotten it." I was like, "Dang!" Like, so I learned there, know your number and stick with it. Like, um, because you never know who's just bidding it up just to bid it up. Like, he had nothing to lose, and he would work for the bank. Like, so
Exactly. I didn't know they could do that.
yeah, yeah. So, yeah. So he worked for the bank. As soon as I said I'm done, and I started walking out the door, he was like, "Hey, hey, hey, wait a second." And he was kind of hush hush about it, but he was like,
Yeah.
don't leave. I might retract my bid. I'm like, what do you mean, like, about that? And he's like, well, I work for the bank. So I'm like, okay. So he retracted his bid, and I went back in with what I had, but
Right.
it was a little bit more than I wanted to. But did the flipped it? It was a complete good. I mean, I spent double on the renovations as I spent on the house. Like, I mean, new roof, new electrical, plumbing, windows, siding, turned and and a an old addition into a master bedroom and bathroom suite, like put a whole new kitchen, floors, new joists, like, I mean, everything, like, new septic well. Like, it was a big undertaking, but got it done, and I was able to go to a local bank to. This is before I even knew what a DSCR, a debt service coverage ratio loan was, but there was a local bank that was willing to deal with me and say, all right, we'll look at the rent roll and for what we think the rents could be, refinance it that way. I did have to come to the table with some money on that one, but it wasn't too bad. I got most of my money out of it. So, or most of the private money lenders' money out
Right.
of it, and I had to come to the table with some. But that was like my first rental property. I think I was like 20. I think the first one I settled, like, I was 21, like right at 21, and the second one, was 22, like, doing that, and then I just kind of slowly started, moving from there. So I had still a realtor, and then but I wasn't managing any of. Funny enough, I wasn't managing any of my own properties, and when I had a different property management company managing it. And one day the property manager came to me and she was like, hey, I'm not going to be able to work with you anymore. And I was like, I'm like, why? What's going on? And she's like, well, the owner of our company is getting married and wants to hire his wife as the new property manager. And he's allowing me to work there, but I'm going to be commission only. And I just can't do commission only. I got to go get a job. And I said, do you mind if we have a conversation? So I went and talked to her. And this is a little bit further into the future, um, but I had that one property. That was the only rental I had at the time.
Okay.
And I said, hey, like I can't pay you a lot, but I think I think we could do something. What do you think about starting a property management company together? And this was in 18. Like, I can't pay you a lot. We'd be starting with just one property. And but if
At
you're
least she had experience.
Yeah, she had experience. She had like 10 years of experience with her. So she
Yes.
had the experience. And I was like, I think there's a lot of people that between me and you, like, we could get people to come over and start working with us. I've built a pretty good name and the, as a real estate agent, like, I think we could do something here. So we decided, and she trusted me. She believed in me enough to come over um, and work it out. And I had to even, and then I was like, all right, we got my one property. And then I called the property management company and I'm like, hey, I'm going to take my property over. This is when I learned about something called, reading contracts. Like, I knew about real estate sales contracts. I guess I didn't read my own management contract thoroughly enough. They were like, yeah, you can take your property with you, but we are the procuring calls of that tenant. And this is what procuring calls of that tenant. So we are owed money. So on our fee, which is a percentage of gross rent that they bring in, so long as that tenant is there. And so so their lease ran for, I don't know, another 6 to 9 months. I owed them management fees, how the contract was written, because they were the procuring calls for the rest of the time that tenant was in there.
Or the lease ran out, right?
What's that?
Or the lease ran out, right?
Yeah, but there was like 9 months left on the lease. So they were going to get 9 months of management fees regardless. And I'm like, dang, going. So I had to buy them out of my own property. And then, yeah, so much for making money. I'm losing money. I'm losing money just to get a property, and it's my own. I'm like, oh my gosh. So, and then, all these people that I thought, are going to come from day one, this is in all their leases too.
Yep.
And not just that, this company, all companies do it. Like, in my area anyway, they do, hey, we're the procuring calls, like, of this tenant. Like, so long as the tenant's in the property, we're due a management fee for it. Owner can leave if they want, but we're still due our money. And I'm like, oh my gosh. So I'm talking to like all these people that I had talked to that were like, yeah, once you start your management company, give me a call. I'm going to come over with you. Not taking from this company that I was with, but just other people in general, like random people in general that I knew. Because when she came over with me, I told her, hey, we're not targeting anybody that's at this, the company that you're at. I don't want you to reach out to anybody that you knew. If they contact you first, that's one thing, but we're not poaching, like that. That's not how I do business. But just random people that I knew. And I was like, hey, yeah, you want to come over? They're like, yeah, I want to come over. Well, they have the same kind of clauses in their management contracts that says we're the procuring calls of the tenant. So long as they're in there, we get management fees. And they're like, hey, Austin, I love you, but not enough to pay them.
I'm not losing money like you.
Yeah, pay them and then pay you, once this tenant leaves. And actually, I got lucky with getting my property back because how it was written was, so long as that tenant is in the property, they're owed a management fee. So even if at the end of lease, if I don't kick that person out of the property, how their contract is written is that they're still owed management fees. So they're like, we'll do you a favor. We'll only charge you for 9 months of management fees. And if they are still in there after the fact, then we won't charge you for that. So I got lucky with mine. But everybody else that I talked to, they were like, yeah, if if this person stays and you don't kick them out when you go transfer to Austin, Whitehead Rental Management, you still owe us management fees. Like, so there was a lot of people that I thought I had in the bag that I was like, oh no. And so it took us 2 years because I had to rent a space, insurances, all the equipment, the software, her salary.
Yeah.
a thing called payroll taxes.
You're gonna make me want to go read all my property management contracts now.
Yeah, yeah, right. And then just electric bills. Like it took me. So I was working as a realtor and doing my thing, and it took me 2 years to just break even
Wow.
on the management side. Like, and there was times I was like, man, I think I messed up. Like, and but I'm like, I'm gonna keep pushing. I'm gonna keep pushing, and we kept pushing, and now we're right around 300 properties under management. So
Man, that's awesome.
yeah, so it's that was a blessing there, and God's blessed us there to keep doing the right thing for the right reasons. Try to, lead with good
Gotcha.
intentions. Sometimes, hey, you can't fix all problems, but as long as you try your best to fix the problems that arise, and communicate, it usually works out and the better.
Gotcha.
So yeah.
Shoot, that's awesome, brother. It seems like all right. So is your management company pretty much your main baby, or is being a realtor, or is it 50-50? How you juggling that?
Yeah, I still luckily I have a good team on the property management side. Like the property management side is I have 4 office staff now and then 2 full-time maintenance guys. And then a lot of work we still sub out. Like we'll sub like the bigger things out, and then the maintenance guys are really just there doing the small things like, oh, I got a small leak. Like it's hard to get a contractor to come out and
Yeah,
fix that 10-minute like put an
exactly.
O-ring on or tighten this one thing. Like it's hard to get somebody out there to do that. So it's nice having just the maintenance guys to do quick handyman. Oh, my door fell off the hinges or whatever. Like something quick like that. Like they're on top of that. But as far as like the bigger stuff, like if I got to call like a licensed electrician, plumber, or like all the things, like we're the office is subbing all that sort of stuff out. But then, yeah, I'm still working as a realtor, you know, average about 50 deals a year as a
Okay.
realtor. So, and then I have,
You're trying to underplay that, like only 50 deals a year. Like,
yeah,
dude, you know how many a month that is?
yeah, yeah. So, yeah, yeah, yeah. So, no, I appreciate that. So, yeah, so about, right around, I've done since being in the business, done a little over, help just over 400 buyers and sellers, as a realtor.
Awesome.
So,
That's awesome.
yeah, yeah. So it's and now I'm starting to get repeat business and things like that from that uh from past
Yeah.
things I've done. They remember me, call me, so which is pretty cool. So and then the property management company, and then building small portfolio of my own personal.
What's that look like? What's your portfolio look like?
Yeah, so most of mine is just single family and small multi. I really want to part of my bigger mission is I have a brother with special needs. I have a brother with Down syndrome. So one of my bigger missions is to be able to help individuals with special needs with affordable housing. And I serve on I work with a couple different not for profits that work with individuals with special needs. I'm on the board of one, and I rent some of my personal properties to another, and then I work as a agent for a third. So like I've really like tied in with what's near and dear to me, has conveyed, and I really wasn't even like pushing that. Like I didn't really target them to work with it. I think people can just see just the way that I work with people and how I come across, and so that's really grown into like my mission to help and build out more affordable places. So I'd like to scale from I'd still buy the single families and the small multis, but I'd like to scale into some either bigger, a little bit bigger multifamily, or even mobile home parks and things of that nature that I can, be able to provide affordable housing and work with some of the non for profits and even just the general community too. But I do have a heart for the not for profits and individuals with special needs,
Gotcha.
and there. So that's where I'd like to where I'd like to span into.
All right. Yeah. So that's kind of your Mount Everest. Your 5 year goal
Yep.
is to do that.
Yeah, yeah. So I'd say my 5 year goal probably to accumulate 250 units of affordable housing, specifically, trying to work with individuals with special needs and not for profits that work with individuals with special needs. That would be an overarching goal for me. Um, above and beyond what I'm doing in my regular businesses. And that's
Gotcha.
where I want to, what's the goal? Why are you doing what you're doing? Well, this, this is why I'm doing what I'm doing. So I can take what I'm doing in my business and spill over into that, and to be able to affect more people, help more people
Right.
with
And then
housing.
your why becomes how now.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. So, and being in owners club, being around people like yourself, being around others that are just thinking bigger, and it's like, okay, like it's sometimes you get in your own bubble and you're just doing the day in day out, like and being around, like I said, other people like yourself and other people in owners club that are just like they just make you think outside the box, make you think
Right.
bigger. And like you said, connecting myself with other people that are doing big things, and how can
I
who
gotcha.
is the individual that can help me to either really see out the plan, or help me with
Exactly.
my plan if they align with it, or see that it's a good thing.
Exactly. Nah, I get it. That's the main reason I joined Owners Club, was to be the small fish in the big pond.
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
like everybody's like, I know a guy. Well, I literally know a guy or a gal that's doing anything and everything in real estate. So if I need help, I know I can go there. That was one of my things. Something I did want to ask you, as a realtor, talking to a lot of people, or realtors in specific, they don't know about creative deals, sub
Yeah.
two, seller finance, all that. How many people come to you wanting that? And two, how many creative deals have you done?
Yeah, so I'll share a funny story. So when I came to s- Squad Up last year, to Squad Up 2024, I wasn't in any of the communities. So I wasn't in Sub 2, I wasn't in any of the communities. And I had a, a deal basically presented to me, and the guy says, "Hey, um, I got to get out of the house. Like, there's things happening in the house, blah, blah, blah. If someone would just take over my payments, like I would just give them the keys." And I was like, there's this guy I've been hearing this guy on my feed. Let me look into him. So this guy Pace, like, let me look into him. So I just start, looking at it, like looking at his free stuff, like on his like YouTube, like just on his YouTube, and then going on the free Facebook page, like,
Facebook group.
yep, and just like reading stuff like what is creative. I thought, man, I thought I was like hotshot creative guy when I did a Burr like deal like that. Like, I was like, yeah, I thought I knew creative finance, and I'm just like all these things, like, and I'm just like, oh my goodness. Well, I ended up, and I just learned off of Pace's free YouTube and stuff in the free, Facebook and everything. I settled on that property subject to the existing mortgage the week before Squad Up.
Wow.
And while I was going through the process, I was like, I've learned so much from this person. Let me sign up and go to this thing, like to this event that he has, and see if this guy's the real deal. Or, I
Exactly.
mean,
Exactly.
he's taught me enough just off of the free stuff that it's worth giving him something. And there were some good speakers there, like the Grant Cardones of the world were there, and all the things. So I was like, all right, I'm gonna go. And man, I was just blown away, like taking notes like crazy, like learning from him, like him talking about different strategies that he was working, and I wasn't in sub 2 so at the time, and I was just talking to people, and I'm like, the whole he's a great storyteller and he leads things up.
Yes.
And the whole time he was there talking about businesses. So he started with Jamil talking about how you scale, scaling a business. And then he was talking about, all right, well, you need this many people doing this many things. And then once you get to there, this is how you scale it up. And then he brought on, um,
Was it Cody Sanchez
Cody
maybe afterwards?
Sanchez talking about ownership and businesses, and then he's talking about, hey, I have this real estate deal, and then I turn around and I got all this equity in it, and you know what I ended up doing, and everybody's like, you sold it, you did this. He's like, no, I got a private money lender to give me a loan on the equity so I could go buy a business. And then that's when it leads into the plant guy talking about business and how we scaled his business, made his business more efficient. That way we could take it to the next level. And like all this stuff, and it's clicking to me like, oh, I need to learn this ownership stuff. I need to be a better business person. Where can I get this information? I'm talking to everybody that's there. I'm like, hey, is all this in sub 2? Is all this in sub 2? Launches, and they're like, no, that's not in sub 2 really. There's some stuff, but the business side or ownership side is not really in sub two. I'm like, well, if he launches something on the last day talking about how to be a better business person and like all this stuff
Yes.
ties into something that he's going to sell,
Yes.
I'm buying it. Like, and sure enough, the last day he's like sells Owners Club, and I'm like,
Right.
straight to the back, take my money. Like, and I signed up for sub two.
With like 300, 400 other of
Yeah,
our
yeah.
closest friends.
Yeah, exactly. I saw what was being led up to. Like,
Yes.
I was like, if he drops something, like I'm buying it. Like, and he crafted that whole,
Not like a sales
not to
guy,
say
but
that it's a sales, that squad up's a sales pitch, because it's not. Because I'll tell you, because being on the realtor side, I've been president of my local association. I've been on the board of directors for the state of Maryland Association of Realtors. I was a voting member for the National Association of Realtors. Like, I've been to conferences, and man, it is like, but when you go to those conferences and things like that, everybody's just like very stiff. Like, you feel it, like, until you've been there long enough. Like, until you've been there long enough and you know people and people know you, like, that's when people start being friendly. But the first conferences that I went to, it was very stuffy. Like, and it was like,
strictly business kind of oriented.
yeah, and just like you had to prove yourself before you were allowed into the room, right? So
Understand?
once, so now I can go to those conferences. People know who I am. I've been in the business long enough and I've been involved long enough that I can hold a conversation with anybody that's in these realtor conferences, even at the national level. But when I walked in the squad up the first time, it was like everybody was so friendly. Like I'm not in, they're like, what community you're in? "Well, I'm not in a community," but they were still like, oh, come hang out with me. Like, let me teach you. Let me introduce you. Let me blah blah blah. It was like so like welcoming, and that was the first thing that I noticed about it
And
all.
people just want to help. I mean, that's my thing is everybody's like, well, what do you need help in? How can I bring value to you? What it's like, I'm coming in from another mentorship myself, and I'm like, it's all about give me, give me, give me.
Mhm.
But now everybody's like, what can I do for you? And I mean, it's an eye opening experience.
But so just like everybody was so helpful. Like, so not only that, so Pace over delivered on the conference. He has a program owners club that is, I had like, hey, I need to be a better business person myself. Like, get around people that are thinking like a better business person, like an owner. I was like, I need to get around people like that and see what I'm missing. I don't know what I don't know, and get around people that have ideas that I've never thought of. And that was great. And then getting into the sub two community, and just, I talked about like my small portfolio of properties and everything. They're all in my backyard. And
Okay.
what has like mind blowing experience or thought is like, there's people in sub two that are like, yeah, I'm doing a deal. I live in California. I'm doing a deal in Texas. I'm doing a deal in South Carolina. I'm doing a deal in the Midwest. And I'm like, how are you doing that? Like, you're not, it's not like you're flying there every day. Like, how are you making this happen? And they're like, just leverage the community. Like, so I talked to, a guy, he's, close to you, Adam. He's in North Carolina, and,
Hmm.
and he's doing a deal out in Kentucky. And, I was talking to him. I was like, so how do you manage that? He's like, so I bought this deal, and I just went on to the group, and I said, "Hey, I'm buying this deal, working this deal in Kentucky. I'm flying out for the first time. Like, I just bought it, flying out for the
Right.
first time. If anybody wants to meet me to view this property and let me know how you can be of help as I'm going through the renovation process, I greatly appreciate it." He's like, I had 20 people show up, or maybe it was the inspections. Maybe he didn't settle on it, but I'm going to see it for the first time. And he's like, meet me at this coffee shop around the corner, and then we'll all ride over together. He's like, I had 20 people meet me there, like, just from the community. And I'm like, man. And he's like, so then after that, while all the work's getting done, these people are there, like, giving me updates, like getting me connected with contractors, like all the things. And I'm like, man, I'm thinking way too small. Like, so I'm thinking I can only do it in my backyard because that's where I know people. Like, that's where I'm only leaning in on my resources versus the resources of others. And just the type of community that Pace has built is just a very go giver mentality. It's so cool to see.
Definitely.
And so, yeah, so that was my first creative deal
Right.
about a year ago. And and it's just expanded my thought process into, all right, well, what's next. So I've kind of, pace that squad up as was talking about. All right, I'm going to get loans against, the equity of some properties. That way, when opportunities come up, I can take advantage of them. And I was like, man, so now I've been kind of restructured some of my properties to the point that, all right, I can put lines of credit against them with private money lenders. And I've done so with two properties. That way, if I want to expand the business, or an opportunity grows comes about to buy a business, like I can do it. So I've kind of restructured some of my real estate and how I have the debt assigned to them. That way I can go and buy opportunities as they arise. So that's another quote unquote creative way to do it. And I have another sub two deal that I'm working on, now. So which is pretty cool.
That's outstanding, man. That's great. Got a couple more questions for
Yeah.
you. Well, all right, let's say somebody's just now getting into real estate. They don't want to be a realtor. They just want to invest in real estate somehow, some way. Give me a good piece of advice for them.
Yeah. So I mean, knowing kind of understanding what you're after and your market, and having a good idea about that. Like I think real estate, I love real estate as an investment tool. Heard it, I don't know where I heard it from, but they say, Bank of America will give you a loan to go buy real estate anywhere in the country, but they won't give you a loan to go buy their own stock. That just that goes to show you, how valuable real estate can be, as an asset class. So I'm like, man, you got to get in the game, and understanding there's different levels of, where you're going to be. Your cheaper D class neighborhoods are probably going to come with more problems. They have higher margins typically, but you're not going to have the most qualified tenants all the time. There could be things that come up if you can rent them, to Section 8 or something like that, or work with a nonprofit that's going to help pay for the rent and everything. Okay, that helps. Margins are better, but not as secure of an asset. And the only people that are really going to buy it, unless it's a neighborhood that's converting, it's probably only going to be another investor that's going to buy it. Like, it's strictly a numbers game on that. Like you can't put more money into it to make it better, and it increase in value, tremendously. A middle market, you're going to get a little bit, slightly better, tenant, and the margins are going to be a little bit less, but the tenant quality is going to be good. And there's people that would want to own that house to live in too. That's a market that I personally like to be in, just because if I needed to sell it to what we call a homestead buyer, like somebody that wants to live in it for themselves, they're willing to pay more for it than an investor. And so that's a market I like to be in for, my single family properties and things like that. And then there's the high end where, yeah, you're going to have the best quality tenant ever, but the margins aren't really going to be that great. And so you got to be conscious of cash flow too. And because you can buy a great deal in this high end, man, I got a great price on it. But if the rent doesn't cover the mortgage, you're losing money every month. And that's not a place that you want to be unless you got stacks on stacks of cash, sitting away.
Exactly.
That's not a place that you want to be. That's a place that you might flip and sell and get out of it, take the profits, and then go invest it into something that's actually cash flows for you. So I'm huge on cash flow. The numbers got to work out. If I'm, yeah, like your shirt, yeah, cash
Yes.
flow, cash
As
flow.
am I.
Yeah, so yeah, if you're buying assets, and I know there's some people that say, oh yeah, buy, that, yeah, I buy, and there's high dollar prices because I know the appreciation is going to be more so. And I'm like, that's okay if you got extra money in the bank to be able to cover the difference. But if you're already at a losing, margins every month, and then something bad happens, like the tenant doesn't pay, or, a natural disaster, you're in a bad spot. So,
Yes.
I don't, that's not where, especially a new person, that's not where I particularly would want to
Definitely.
be. And then also I'd say if the deal is right, the money will come. Like if it's a good deal, I don't think you need to really worry about the money as much. The money will come.
Gotcha.
It's the deals are the ones that are the harder thing
Right.
to come by. People want the deals, and if you
Yes.
have the deal, if you can wedge yourself in some way, whether that's selling the deal to somebody else, or they give you a percentage of ownership of the deal just for bringing the deal to them, like great. But yeah, the deal is key over the money. Like the money will come.
Funny you said wedge. You know, that's one of the cheat codes
Yeah.
is the wedge method. And it just, but whenever you said wedge, I was like, hold on.
Yeah, yeah. Your ears start
Yep,
tickling, you know? So, but no,
exactly.
like that's something like that Pace has talked about as a way to get
Hmm.
yourself, which I would have never really. I mean, I know like bird dogging and wholesaling the deal to somebody else and everything, but yeah, why
Right.
not take a share of equity?
Definitely.
And I think there's even some of the capital raisers that are in the group that are in Owners Club. I never thought. I was thinking like, how do they make money? Are they raising? And they might be doing it this way. Are they raising it at 8% and then selling it at 10% and making a 2% margin? But
Yeah.
there's
Like a
some,
bank.
yeah, yeah. But there's some people in the in Owners Club and the community that are just taking the money and not even making a real margin on it, but they're actually getting a percentage of ownership. They're
Right.
like, hey, I'll pass off the money that I have at the interest rate that I have if you give me a future interest in the property. That's the same thing with
Definitely.
Wedge and into the deal. And you didn't bring the deal, but that time you raised and were a
Right.
connector with money. So, there's so many different ways to get
Definitely.
in. Like it's
There is.
uh, and for me, I was always thinking the conventional way, like independent. Yeah, yeah, exactly. So and I was like, oh my gosh. So once I get exposed to how many different ways there are to get involved in real estate, it's like it's
I
endless.
got you. All right, I got two more questions for you, and these are ones that I don't ever hear.
Uh,
We just got back from Squad Up Summit, and I was talking to Jerry Norton, and I asked him, "What's your typical day?" You know, you hear all these people. It's like, you know, I get up at 3 in the morning and I don't go to bed till 1 in the morning, and I got to be up. I got to get the deals. I got to do this, and I'm like, that's not really sustainable, for, at least for me. So what I want to ask people is, tell me what time you get up. Tell me your typical day and what time you kind of lay it down.
yeah. So yeah, it kind of fluctuates depending on, but what I try to do is I try to get up early before I have two young kids. I have two little girls, a 3.5 year old and a 1.5 year old. I try to get up before them to kind of get my day going, get ready and everything before them, kind of get anything that's lingering or any like emails or anything out. I get them out before them before they wake up. And then my mornings, tied to getting them together and getting them ready, and then taking them to school. Well, my 3.5 year old, my 1.5 year old stays home with my wife right now. But um, and then my day, I'm going to the office and working between the real estate.
All of your stuff.
Yeah, the real estate sales, the property management, and just my personal properties that I'm working on and fixing up and renovating and everything. So, and throwing in meetings for different things throughout the day. People want to go look at houses. I need to go swing. I go swing by some of my houses. The day to day property management. I'm not doing like the day to day property management, but I'm still overseeing when the problems arise, like things come up. I don't really go to court or anything like that, but I just prepping the team for whatever that they have to do with.
Because you're an owner.
Yeah, yeah. So so prepping them with how to handle the situations, certain people, or how to deal with this. What do we got to do? I have some owners, like what's nice is that some owners are, hey, whatever it is, you take care of it. Like, and they'll don't call me, just take care of it. And just so I make those end calls on, are we gonna go do this thing, or do I really need to have a conversation with that owner? But
Gotcha.
um but yeah, no. So my day to day is, kind of full with different meetings. I'm a part of different organizations, so I'm kind of in and out of the office throughout the day. I do try to in the afternoons go to the gym. Either the gym or actually I enjoy I go to like an MMA gym too, so
Okay.
I enjoy going jujitsu and boxing classes. I enjoy doing that. Try not to get beat up too much, but but I enjoy, going and staying involved, trying to stay halfway in shape, and then try to get home, see the I go home first, see my kids before they go to bed. They kind of go to bed early, so I try to get home, see them, and then I go to the gym
Okay.
and then come back and finish more, work things that I didn't get done in the evening time. So I try to get to bed at a decent hour, but there's some times where sometimes I don't get up as early in the morning because I stayed up way late. Like, so it's owning my calendar is definitely something that I try to get a little bit better at. Is
Gotcha.
this is bedtime. You go to bed
Yeah.
here because you're not going to get up and do the things in the morning
Right.
that you need to do. So, and be well ahead of the kids and all the things. So, because
I get it.
once they're up, it's like,
It's a wrap.
yeah,
Yep.
exactly. Like,
Yeah.
oh, I want to send that email. I want to do those couple things. I wanted to read up on
Right.
that one thing. Yeah, sorry, it's gone now.
Gotcha. Yeah. 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 Nah, I got you. Last question is, are you a sports person?
Yeah. I mean, as far
I know
as,
you said MMA.
yeah, yeah, I would say more, my father was actually a fought as a professional kickboxer. And yeah, he actually was trained by a three-time world champion. So I grew
Wow.
up like always like in the garage, like hitting mitts, like and stuff like that. Like that was something I always did. And then when I got into high school, I started like boxing, and then after I got into jujitsu at my younger brother. He was like, I want to do this jujitsu thing. And I was like, oh, that's fake. Like, or, like,
Right. Right.
and then but I'm going to go with you because I don't want nobody to like give you a hard time. So, but I've been like boxing and like striking and stuff like that. And I go with my younger brother to this class and I got my butt kicked. Like it was bad. Like I was
Right.
like, wow, I had to question everything I knew. Like I was like, oh my gosh, like got choked out so many times, like got arm locked, everything. I was like, oh, this is pitiful. But I kept coming back. I was like, there's something here. So I just kept
That's
coming
cool.
back. So yeah, no, but yeah, like I love watching boxing, MMA, UFC, like that's my go-to. I'm in Maryland, so Ravens and the Orioles. But the college I went to is Salisbury University, and actually Dan Quinn, who's now the head coach of the Commanders, Redskins, is he's an alumni from Salisbury. So
There you go.
I have to give some, love there now too because
Understand.
he's over there. So I gotta spread the love a little bit just
I
because
like it.
he's there, and they actually had a pretty good run. So
Yeah.
for the
Yeah.
first time in a while. So
Exactly.
well, so
Exactly.
yeah, but no, that's a little bit on the sports back.
Well, brother, I think no, we're coming to an end here. And where can people follow you? And if they got questions or whatever, what's your socials?
Yeah. So people can shoot me a DM. I'm easy to find. I'm at Austin Whitehead RE on Instagram. So, and I'm pretty sure on Facebook it's the same thing. It's Austin Whitehead RE, and RE is in real estate. So that's how they can reach me, follow me, reach out with information, questions. I'm more than happy to help.
Cool, cool. Well, I do appreciate it. And everybody out there, if y'all got any questions for Austin or myself, you can just hit us up on our socials that you just said. Mine is at Lance Williard, and that's Lance Williard everywhere. If you like what we're doing here, smash the like button down below, subscribe. If you got any comments, leave them down below. If you got any questions for us, leave them down below. And we're going to continue to bring big name guests and bring value to you and your business. And until the next one, I'm out.